Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Dustin Cormier, and this is another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are continuing the important enterprise of talking about the moon in Scorpio personality. I recommend, if you are watching this, check out the video that I just put out a little bit recently talking about just the moon in Scorpio in general. The moon in Scorpio personality, there's a lot to kind of unfold there in terms of the moon because the moon is debilitated. That video will go through it all, and check it out if you feel called to. But I'm pretty much going to go through a lot of it in this video as well. This is an interesting video because this is an important one where we can see that there is debilitation of both of the planets that hold the water chakra, the Svadhisthana chakra, as we're going to talk about. The moon is debilitated in Scorpio and Venus is debilitated in Virgo, in the 11th house from the moon. To give this short thrift, the 11th house relates to the idea or the image of what we've done with ourselves in our lives and the appreciation that people have for what we actively do, which is not really how Venus or the moon ideally work. We talk about this in a lot of the videos with the moon in Scorpio and with Venus in the places in the general area above the chart. But it's particularly so with this Venus in Virgo. What we have here is Venus and the moon are both debilitated. And to give it a gumball encapsulation of what's going on here, you spend probably all of your energy in your career because the moon is being channeled. The moon is channeling through the Manipura chakra, the fire chakra, the third chakra, which is ruled by Mars and the sun. It's ambitious. Usually, all of us at our healthiest, what we do is we use the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, to engage in experiences of soul bonding with people, which makes us feel like we are loved and we are getting love and support from the universe without us trying, without us having to do anything. The magic of the moon, of what it's supposed to do, is to connect yourself for what you are with others in the world so that you are loved and appreciated for what you are, so that you can work smarter, not harder. If you have to work harder to be in the place of love that you want to be in, you're not really doing what the moon is supposed to do. The moon in Taurus is the example. The planets exalted give us clues as to how that planet is supposed to operate. The moon in Taurus has a mutual soul bonding that's based on what the people are, so that they don't have to go and put a lot of effort into doing things in order to be appreciated and loved. You are somebody who has to accept that you want to be appreciated for what you do. But this is an extreme idea. You're so idealistic about it that you think that you can just be loved just by what you do, by being almost a doormat. This is somebody who can become a doormat, but the moon in Scorpio takes it personally. The moon in Scorpio is insecure, doesn't want to feel like a doormat, but the thing is, it's the moon in Scorpio that kind of really messes you up here. The moon is supposed to be our first arbiter of the Svadhisthana chakra, where the Svadhisthana chakra is supposed to douse the water of the fire chakra. By having the soul bonding experiences we have with others, we feel like we can regenerate without having to perform, without having to do anything. And by doing so, we are loved and appreciated for what we essentially are. And that way we can put our energy towards more ambitious and soul-fulfilling constructive purposes, not because we're chasing the affection that we never got when we were children in our childhood. And this is a huge part of the underlying essence of this person's needy energy. It's ironic because you probably convey that you're not needy. You probably convey that you are independent, and this is probably what you've done since you were young. This is the Scorpio moon and Venus in Virgo. Says, I only need a little bit. I'm good. I don't need support, and I don't need love, and I don't need much extravagance. I don't need to make a big deal about the love that I have. I will say, by the way, my moon placement is very close to yours. My moon is in Sagittarius, which is pretty close to Scorpio still, and my Venus is in Virgo. So I kind of deal with this energy, and I understand it in my own way. Of course, my Venus has lots of support for other reasons, which is something that has to be conveyed here. You know, one thing that is helpful about this situation is that Venus is in the sign. It's kind of an ironic thing. Venus is one planet who is helped by a friend when it's debilitated. This is a positive thing about Venus. When it's in the sign of Virgo, it's still debilitated, but it has help from its friend Mercury, which essentially means that in love, you are accepting of the need to serve and reciprocate love. You communicate with others about love, and you feel how good it is to communicate about your needs. And by doing service to your lover, you eventually can say to them and communicate to them, it seems to me that I'm the type of person who experiences love in this way, because the Venus in Virgo communicates about it in earthy, true ways. Mercury encourages you to communicate the type of love that you want. But essentially what you communicate, especially with the moon in Scorpio, is that, don't worry, honey, I don't need much. I don't really need anything. This, like so many of the things that I've been talking about in this series, this is part of your love nature. You have to accept that this is who you are. Find a lover who loves you for your soul, for a soul bonding, so that it's a tricky thing, because people are going to be attracted to the fact that you're quiet, you have a soft-spoken, but still magnetic, sexual, juicy, sensual, erotic energy. And it's just, there is a playfulness available here. But it's a playful ability to do dry, menial tasks. And you eventually, because of the delight from Mercury, because it's in the sign of Virgo, and Mercury is a friend to Venus. When a planet is in the sign of a friend, it's delighted by that friend. Here, Venus at least knows how to explain and describe that it is the type of person who has this nature, who wants to be loved for what you do and the service that you do. And you can explain it to your lover, and you can even talk about the fact that you've never really sought a deep level of affection throughout your childhood. And you'll feel an internal sexual, that's essentially a sensual energy more than anything, where you probably love to just have like feeling of caressing a person's body for long hours of, delicious foreplay-ish kind of energy that'll eventually add up to probably a deep sexual experience that is very sensual, very feeling and touch and earth based. And the Scorpio in you probably wants to feel at some level like you're in the kink of serving or being served by a lover and playing around with that. And you can explain this and describe these things and ask your lover for it. But ultimately, you'll say that this is the kind of thing that I want, but I'm not going to want it all the time. And I kind of would prefer if you didn't push it on me. If you didn't tell me, if your lover comes and says, I know what type of love you are and what type of erotic energy you have, and I want to do it, and what's up, baby? Let's do the thing. And you'll probably communicate that you're a person who doesn't like to do that too much. You're probably somebody who is deeply, like, you hold the nut for a long time, not doing it all the time, not really wearing it on. You seem like a dry, unsexual, almost asexual person. And I will tell you, lots of people with this combination will think that they are asexual when they're actually not. They just have to communicate that their sexuality has down droughts, and then it has moments of catalytic, sudden desires of being met with the energy that they haven't released. This is a release valve erotic energy, and it can be explosively delicious when it does happen. But you have to communicate to your partner that it's intense when it's there and that it's almost not there when it's not there. But you will be able to communicate this, and you will find relationships based on people's ability to communicate with you about this. Sad part is that you might not feel worthy of anybody, because the inherent nature of this energy is one which is transmuting sexuality, transmuting the sexual impulse towards something that is functional and purposeful, Virgo, which is not really the idea of Venus. I mean, that is the idea for everybody. Our sexual energy is meant to be in service to some deeper purpose. But how people often find it, if they don't have Venus in Virgo, is that they be sexual and the sexuality is there and there's the juiciness there, and they say, okay, good, there's this juiciness. Now I want to further convey it and contrive it to be in the service of our soul love. Most people experience Venus through puberty in this way and eventually come to say, I want to be soul bound with a partner who will appreciate my sensuality, and as well as moments when I'm not sensual. They can be okay with me hanging out with them at 7 p.m. when we're hanging out and watching a movie, and we don't have to make a big deal about anything or do anything with that. You are probably somebody who's not necessarily wanting to be that sexual for yourself all the time, but you might feel bad that your lover is somebody who likes to have sex more than you do. So you will probably be a serviceful person in this regard. And you might have sex or do sexual things with your partner or cater to their moods when they're in a bad mood. You'll hold on with them and you'll help them through their dark moments, even when you're in a place where you don't want to do that, where you're not ready for that. You're drained from work. You get home and the one thing that you just want to do is be able to hang out with your lover and just chill, not have to do anything exciting or dry or mechanical. But your lover comes along and says, hey baby, I'm here and I'm in a mood, and you say, okay, I can subsist, I can help you through this mood, even though you're in a mood too and you're kind of blah and you're dunzo. You will probably serve the person, and when they have a sexual need, you'll rock and roll for them to get them off, to get them out of the way as a service. And both of you will feel that your heart is not fully in it. And if you communicate that, the best thing that would happen is that your partner will start to appreciate you for who you are and appreciate that you would do that service when you will, but will understand when your heart is not fully in it, and will either say thank you for serving me and getting my sexual needs met even though yours aren't fully there right now. And at the same time, they will also curb some of their sexual energy and put it into other things, or even just put it into hanging out with you and watching movies and engaging in superficial ways that aren't necessarily sexual. What often ends up happening is that when somebody does this for you, this is the type of person that you're deeply eroticized by. It's ironic that you are turned on when you say, I don't really feel like it. And the person says, that's okay. We can just sit and watch a movie and it's okay. I trust you. I love you for more than just your ability to serve me. And you say thank you so much. And then you watch the movie, you're kneeling back, and you're turned on secretly by the fact that they didn't want to do it. So now you're like biting your lip and watching the movie and just kind of like making little sexual innuendos, and like just, the two of you are kind of flirting on the side of the situation, and then all of a sudden you're putting your hand on their leg and they're not doing anything because you communicated that you don't want to do anything, and now you're like, fuck. Now you want to build up this energy that's almost naughty because we've consented that this is not a moment where we need to have a sexual experience. And now the moon in Scorpio in you is feeling like it can be insecure, and it wants to feel like it's in bed with the person, and that there's a bonding of something that's going to keep you there for a long time. The energy creeps up, and all of a sudden you're turned on by the fact that they said no, and then you look at them and say, actually, I mean, I could kind of go right now. I know this from Venus in Virgo, but the moon in Scorpio in particular feels bad about it. Feels bad about the fact that your moon is debilitated, feels frustrated. And if your moon has help, then this won't go as bad. If your Venus has help from friends or benefic energies, trines from Jupiter, trines from Mercury in both senses, then it won't be quite this as much. But essentially, you'll feel like you're not doing enough for your partner. And they're, you know, you said no, you don't want to have sex. I wanted to have sex, but you've said no. Your partner's telling this to you, so they go, okay, no problem. I consent. I consent to you not consenting. And then you're lying back, and ideally, the moon here and the Venus in Virgo is turned on by the fact that the person said no, and then you communicate, you know what, I'm actually kind of into it. And you don't take it personally, and he or she doesn't take it personally that this whole rigmarole went down this way. For the moon in Scorpio, the trouble here is that you will start to feel like, oh fuck, I'm blowing it. This is the one person that I could finally get in my life. They've said no, they've consented, and that's so sweet. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold this person to me, because I'm a piece of shit and all the other things that Scorpio moon will tell themselves. I've never been able to love myself. I don't know what's interesting. I don't know what's sexy, because essentially, you know, so I had to convey that, you know, that's an energy that could happen. And if you don't have any Svadhisthana chakra happening through certain things with the moon and Venus, as I'm going to explain, then you will feel insecure and you'll blow up on the person and just say, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm fucking, and you'll just get revved up in an emotional moment and pour yourself over the person when they've said, it's okay, it's okay. You don't have to get all revved up and make me feel guilty about the fact that I did this thing that we asked. I thought this is how it was supposed to be. But then you start, you know, if you get emotional and cry and say, like, I'm just insecure, or you just leave, or you don't call the person again because this whole pressure is too much, and you take it personally that your sexual energy is this way, then it's not going to work. And you're going to abandon it. You're going to abandon all love that you could possibly have from this traumatic experience of the one person who said no when you didn't feel like it, and now you felt bad and blew the whole thing up, not for something that they did, but because you couldn't handle the pressure of the nature of your sexual energy, which at some level is not geared to be as sexually stimulating and satisfying in a constant way as other energies are. You can use this very, you know, you can get a fancy pair of scissors that can do anything, or you can get an old run-down pair of scissors and it will still cut. But if you take it personally that the scissors are crappier than everyone else's and you throw it away, you're never going to do the cutting. You're never actually going to do the thing. You have the scissors. You do have sexual energy. You do have a Svadhisthana chakra, the second chakra, the water chakra. You do have it, and you can employ it. It is there. You just have to not take it personally, that it's a little bit off in the way that most people deal with it and have it. Now, this could be really bad, or it could be okay enough that you can make it work. What I mean by this is that the moon is not all bad by being debilitated in Scorpio, and Venus is not all bad by being debilitated in Virgo. Already, again, you have a bit of a saving grace here, because Venus is delighted by Mercury, who rules Virgo. You can communicate, and in those moments where you feel super insecure, you can just talk to your partner and say, you know, look, I'm sorry. I've never been a person who's really done this sexual thing too much, and I'm kind of looking to be somebody who's more developed and full and mature about this, and I feel bad about it, and I'm sorry, and I feel like a piece of shit. And if the lover is the right lover for you, and if they can meet you there, they'll tell you it's all good. I can accept that. And when these moments happen, they are with you on that, and they can accept that if you communicate it. and if they're the right lover for you, essentially. You might go through a lot of relationships before you learn to finally put it out there and communicate. And your Venus can be a real saving grace here in this regard. But what I want to say is that essentially the moon in Scorpio, because it's debilitated, but there's so many other things that can be helping your moon that you might not realize, that you actually have emotional experiences from childhood that would make you feel like you have things to share that people can love. If your moon is closer to full moon, that's almost like having an exalted Venus in Taurus. If your moon is waxing, it caters more to the energy of Venus and Taurus as well. If your moon has strong Shadbala, which is a Vedic term for just overall planetary strength. If it's close to the 4th house cusp, this is what's called Digbala. The moon and Venus are happier being close to the 4th house cusp. If the moon has angles from its friends, if it's in the same sign as the sun or Mercury, if the sun is trine to the moon, or if Mercury is trine to the moon, because the sun and Mercury are friends to the moon. The sun helps you to feel like I've got things going on. If the sun's in trine, I've got a life, I've got a beauty in my soul that I constantly act that people can appreciate. If it's Mercury, then you have more of the communication, not only saving Venus, but also in the moon's case, if Mercury is trine the moon, then you can talk with yourself about what kind of things most people enjoy. I don't enjoy them, but I can still find something that I enjoy. Mercury can help you talk with yourself about that situation. If the moon has a trine to Jupiter, then Jupiter is the great benefic who really helps anything that it's in a deep aspect to in a lot of ways. Just by pushing you, the universe will give you a luck push to find out things that would be good for you to talk with people about and that people would enjoy, so that you can recognize that and say, you know what, I have things that is worthy of loving, and I am worthy of love. And it makes it easier to deal with the moon's nature. So the moon can have all these positive things. If it doesn't, what I still want to say is that this is something I've been saying in all these videos. Astrology is not nearly as fatalistic as most people tend to convey. These are astral sphere karmas. And even if your moon has absolutely, no support from anything, that would mean typically that you've had a rough childhood, or a childhood where even you could be born to a family that gives you what you need. It gives you the milk of the universe, that gives you nourishment and support, but you don't take it. You don't instinctively take it. You miss out on it. You don't feel like it's important. And you go through your whole life, as Scorpio moon especially tends to do, being stuck and locked in your own familiar, sensual, sensational grooves that help you get it out of the way. Get your emotions out of the way. Get some kind of sensual hit of something that is something you can do for yourself. In this case, it might be like reading, might be building a career, or these kinds of things. And ultimately, these self-oriented things are all things that you do in order to comfort yourself, if it's all going towards the moon. But I guess I should say, if you don't have any support to your moon, if it's close to new moon, if it's waning, all these things, then you're probably somebody who just doesn't appreciate even goodness when it does come. But if this is you, understand at some level that's part of your nature, but also understand that all the planets are here as vitalizers of the inherent soul energy of what we are. And if you endeavor to meditate, you can look objectively over the compulsions of your mind that were birthed through the incidental programming that you went through in childhood. You can see over top of it, get a therapist, tell the therapist that this is how you are, and they can help you to reflect on the fact that those are incidental programming modules of your childhood that aren't you. That is just your samskaras, your past actions and tendencies and mental conditionings. And if it is important to you to endeavor to lessen this ill karma love or love karma, then you can meditate, let go of the compulsions of your mind, and identify the parts of yourself that are worth loving and that can get you to connect with people in a way that helps you to use your Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, to douse that heavy moon ambition of the moon coming through Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars, which is fiery. So no matter what the situation is, trust yourself, and if love is something that you need to reintegrate and recalibrate, seek ways to do it. If it's not an inherent part of your astral karma, then your karma is always going to resist you. But karma is just like quitting cigarettes. If you smoke for 20 years, it's going to take you 20 years to kind of finally let it go. But you can. It's just a habit. We are not our habits. We are the pure awareness observing the habits that happenstance has grown us through. Now, ultimately, at some level, we are still our habits, and we can change them and observe our soul objectively, see them objectively, and move within our soul to merge with our karma in a way that puts that karma to best effect. In your case, in the case of somebody with this situation, you do have to accept at some level that you are this type of person. But if you have support to the moon, it could go easier. So don't go thinking that you're absolutely screwed just because both of these important Svadhisthana chakra planets are debilitated. It's going to show that there's a dryness that has come through your past experience, though, and you got to kind of cater to where that's at. How this, I think, ultimately is going to come out, the moon in Scorpio is a very ambitious person. And at some center, you ultimately feel like you have to endeavor to act in order to be appreciated for who you are and what you do. And I think what's going to happen is early in this person's life, probably in some level, no matter what the placement of their planets, no matter how much they're supported, you're going to feel like you are catering more to the world of people that you associate with than you are in your own personal sphere, than yourself. You don't care about yourself. You're very hard on yourself. You're way harder on yourself than you are to the people around you, especially to the people at your work. You probably surrender and sacrifice a lot of work, energy at work, really in a way where you might even like bring snacks and like your work friend might know you as this sort of like call therapist person where people at your work will call you and talk about all the drama of all the other people at work, and you planned today to just watch a movie and hang out, but Janie's calling you, and now it's okay, Janie, I gotta help you because I'm gonna see her at work and I'm gonna have to deal with the energy at work. And you're probably going to serve your work in extra ways, in ways that aren't necessary. In the same way that you feel like you have to do a lot for your lover in order for them to love you because you don't love yourself. In the same way with your career, you're going to feel like you have to do a lot for everybody, for your boss, to do all these extra emotional things for them in order to secure you there, instead of just feeling like all you have to do is do your job and then come home and then have a life to fulfill at home. Thing is that you don't give the love for your own self, for your own family, for your own personal sphere of relationships. You give it all to your career. Part of the reason is because when early in life, you're going to go to your career and it's going to have all these people you have the chance to talk to and be sentimental with. You'll grow attached to them. And then you'll come home and your life will feel meaningless because you don't have anyone at home. Because probably early in your life are not instinctively developing on getting the milk of the universe, of accepting that you're worthy of love and having fun and talking to people and accepting love, and especially in your own personal sphere. So in the early part of your life, you spend all your sentimental time on people at work and in your career, doing things for people, doing things for your family even. Not your marriage family, but your nuclear family, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. Doing a million things for them to help keeping the family together. And then when you finally have an opportunity where you feel like you're depressed because you don't have an actual love to experience, you might actually go out and try to seek a lover, to date, whatever. You find somebody who can finally date and go out with. And what you find is that your lover becomes bonded to you, and you treat them like you treat yourself. Sorry, honey, we can't hang out today at 7 o'clock because Janie's calling me. I know we said we were going to hang out and have a movie, but Janie's calling me about her personal problems, and I'm going to have to see her at work, which means I got to talk with her about this and essentially sacrifice my personal time with you for this rather honestly meaningless work thing that I feel is so important. And it's because at some level, this is how you are, and if this gets too heavy and the gap becomes too wide, you could become somebody who never feels like they could really grip anyone and go out with anyone and have anyone for a lover, because you've already surrendered it to all these other things of your ambition. The moon in Scorpio, ambition. It's ruled by Mars. It's trying to do this long, ambitious projects and things and people. And, the Venus in Virgo wants to serve. It wants to be appreciated for serving. So early on in life, you'll do it for the people at work, and you'll become attached to that. Now, you'll finally come home to your lover, and you find that your lover doesn't want you to serve them all the time. Like, they just want to chill with you. And you won't know how to do that and how to deal with that. Because in a lot of ways, for guys especially, for men with this combination, you'll find a lover and you might bind with them and you'll put the ring on their finger and you'll get married and you'll have the relationship, and she will say to you, honey, I wish we could spend more time together. And the man will say, I'm sorry, darling, I've put all of my energy into being useful to my work team. And you never get to see your lover and actually have the experience of deep, true personal connection to someone close to you because you've surrendered it all to these other things. In a woman's case, it tends to be things like, to their family and their children, even their personal family. But women will get married with this combination with Scorpio moon and Virgo Venus. You'll get married, and your lover could say, honey, we could the kids, you work hard for your kids and you're appreciated for that, and your lover appreciates that. And that is probably, there's available there some good feelings of attainment of the love that you seek, at least for a little while. The thing is that, if you are only there for your children, when they get older, if you don't learn to love yourself, then they are only going to ever have the relationship with you as a mother, not as a friend, which is good when they're young, but not good when they're older. And how you have to do this really is through loving your lover, your husband or your wife. But the thing is that for a woman especially, you'll say to the lover, the lover might say to you, your husband or your lesbian lover or your polyamorous, polycule, whatever it is, they might say to you, we would love to just I would love to hang out with you personally. Let's go on a date. Let's put the kids in, we'll get a babysitter, and we'll go out for a night on the town. And this will make you nervous because you've never spent time since childhood thinking about how to be a nice, fun, entertaining person without doing anything, without trying, without putting on in some kind of service. And you'll freak out and you'll say honey, I got to help the kids with homework, so let's just do it another time. It'll only be rare moments where you actually do this. And really, you might be a person who just, again, serves your partner sexually because you never take the time to enjoy a more meaningful Venus existence with them. So you'll suck their dick in order to just sort of, okay, the fucking bear's gone to sleep. Now I can exist in my state of enforced neutrality. Whereas really your heart actually wishes that it wasn't so rigid. Right? In the man's case, it's probably more like I give it all to my career. Not the kids and all these things, but it's kind of like honey, do you know how much time I put into my career, into all these things? And, you know, like at some level you prefer that. It's a superficial preference though. It's you being locked into your thing. And what ultimately is going to have to happen is, like me, having Venus in Virgo, you're going to have to explain to your lover that I need my time. I'm not somebody who wants to have a lot of sensual, sentimental love experiences all the time. I want to be appreciated for the ambitious things that I do with my job and my people at work. And my girlfriend pulls me down and says, honey, I get that, but you're still a human. Think about the importance of the philosophy of love and the fact that you're walking up this mountain and you have the ability to drink water. I'm right here. Squeeze, squeeze. Fun things can happen, and I can help you just enjoy so you don't have so much tension. And my girlfriend does this, and when she gets through to me, it's a very good thing, because she's right, because I don't have the astral karma to be inclined since childhood to look to release myself. I put a lot of effort into doing stuff like this YouTube thing that I'm kind of doing, and I put a lot of effort into it. And Venus being delighted by Virgo, by Mercury, can allow an ambitious energy to go towards the things that you work towards. Venus is helping Virgo. Venus is affecting Virgo as much as Virgo is affecting Venus. Venus in the natural sixth sign of the zodiac can help you to constantly put effort into the things that you want to do in your career. And that's good and cool. But don't get too addicted to having reasons that you should be bonded to. You know, it's like you go and do all these millions of little things that you can say to your lover, look at all these things that I've done for you and for us. This is for our family's coffers. You can't deny that I've put a lot of love into this relationship. And the partner rolls their eyes and says, I see it, but I don't feel it. And this is a balance that you've got to find. If you are willing to be in the fullness of your soul and to fully experience the nature of the soul, which is sexual at some level, which is sentimental, which does have a heart, then you will start to get the inclination, especially communicating through Venus and Virgo, that through the power of Mercury, that I'm sorry that I can't give you the love that you seek. And if the lover says, it's okay, because I don't necessarily just love you for your actions that you do, I love you for who you are, and those actions are a part of it. All those little actions, the things you do at work, it's okay. And if your lover, at some level, both of you will have to find meditative ways of having an autoerotic experience or an auto-sentimental experience where you can either devote yourself to God or devote yourself to serving something outside of your personal relationship, whether that's a family or some kind of ethical thing or a musical band in my level. You know, there are things that you've got to find that channel and sublimate your what would be a sentimental, hugging, sensual, erotic relationship that most people would have. And I recommend that you do that because it's part of who you are, but also allow yourself to be penetrated and to break that rigidity so that you can be invited to get out of this lockstep of moods that you go through, get out of the rigid pattern, and communicate about the fact that you would like to explore things outside of what you have only ever known. And if your partner is the right partner for you, they will do that for you at the times and moments that you consent. You build yourself up the capacity to do it, and they'll do it with you. And once it's done, they're going to love you because you cracked through your shell and met them in the middle and had a juicy human experience that wasn't just pissed away doing a bunch of ambitious work for people who are not your actual personal sphere of emotional reality. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good rundown of this situation. Now, don't go away yet because we have one more reading to get into. Ideally, I like to say the whole caveat of my personal idea of these sign combinations. And what I should say is that when you do finally communicate that Venus through Virgo and say, you know, I would like to have an experience. I'm sorry that I can't do this all the time, but now I'm in the mood. Now I'm juicy. Let's rock and roll. This is what it's going to kind of come out like. This is Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. This is the bed-making, love-making, erotic personality of Moon in Scorpio with Venus in Virgo. Discriminating and cautious. You don't give your heart to just anyone. However, once you make a commitment, you do stick with it through and through. And there's a deep discernment factor of looking through the psyche of somebody to check if they can deal with your weird quirks and intricacies and insecurities. I should say you should be very careful you might go through relationships of people who you go with because this person's kind of lowbrow and they'll accept that I'm not very worthy of loving, and they might not be that worthy of loving either, and so maybe we'll work together. And then what'll happen is that you'll get a desire to grow and to actually finally start to channel what Venus and Moon you do have, what Svadhisthana chakra energy that you do have, and they will not be accepting of it because they aren't actually worthy of just using you to get a good feeling or a status or the love that the type of love that you shared, where you'll basically catered to their every whim and their every mood, and you were there for them, and they got used to that and took it for granted and expected you to be there by their side all the time, but are not by your side when you need it. So that's something to watch out for too. Ultimately, once you make a commitment, you do stick with it through good times and bad. This is the type of person that should really be this sort of, because it's good to have that loyalty. But that loyalty should come from a shared place of soul desires pitted to the feeling that we want to live and grow together and want to share the space of our vulnerabilities together. Because the moon, excuse me, sorry about that. The moon in Scorpio is this compulsive, transformative, intense personality energy. And you will crave these sorts of things. You will crave to grow eventually. Your idealism and your penchant for perfection make you critical and demanding and communicative about these things. But when your demands are met, you're quite capable of giving all your love. In the bedroom, it's important for you to be in a position of power and control. Even a submissive person who's doing all the serving can feel like the person appreciates that, as long as they are doing that and they're saying like thank you. If they're kind of like, even if the kinky thing, they're pulling your hair and bringing you down here, like that can be all good as long as you are consenting that, right? If this is the energy that you want to have with your partner and they do it and you're like, ooh, yeah, this is juicy, rock and roll. As long as it's not like you do that without, you should communicate it. Thankfully, you've got Venus in Virgo, so you will communicate that that's a kink that you can consent to. As long as you don't go out to a bar and you're walking around with your partner and your partner says, hey, why don't you go and get me a beer, honey, and kind of like grabs your hair and throws you around a bit, and it's like, yeah, that's kinky, right? And you're like, no, don't fucking touch me like that in public again. You know what I mean? So I understand what they're saying here is that you do want to be in a position of power and control, at least not necessarily that you're controlling and overpowering the other person, but that the other person doesn't have complete control and power over you. The lover who does not challenge your authority and your intelligence and your desire to be in your own comfortable space of consent will win your undying devotion. And I get that, especially because you can be so picky about your sexual moods and things and can find it to be so gross when you have to do it when you don't really feel like it. And you will, again, because you feel like you have to, but your lover, a good lover for you, will be listening and thinking about your moods and thinking about how much they get you to do things when you're not in the mood. Or they will be listening to your genuine erotic place in the moment. Juicy. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it was clarifying and clear. Let me know how I hit the mark in the comments below. And let me know how I did. Feel free to communicate and talk with me all about it. I'm Dustin Cormier with How to Rock Astrology. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and keep your eyes peeled because I always got more stuff happening in the world of astrology. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay juicy.